Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Normally, when I introduce the program, you see a genial smile from me, a loving smile. But today, like all of you, we are so consumed and preoccupied about what's happening in Gaza. So today, really, I want to focus on the psychological impact of the war on Gaza. And before I even do this and introduce my beloved guests, I know, like many of you who stay in apartments, whilst you're in deep slumber and someone from the floor above you drops something unwittingly, and you are disturbed and get agitated. Now I want you to visualize the situation in Gaza, where children 24 hours a day are exposed to the bombs, the loss of life, the parents dying, parents seeing the children dying. And you cannot commodify human beings. Have we lost our humanity? Have we lost our humanity? And you'll see the statistics in the background about what is going on. Post-traumatic stress disorder, little kids, anxious, worried, agitated, parents themselves going through depression. And the question is this: what should we do? We know their situation. And Allah bless us, really, that we understand when our Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that the whole ummah is like one body. What affects one part should affect the rest of the body. And you and I are affected. Very seriously affected. So in this program, we will talk about some of the realities on the ground there. I also want to focus on what we can do to maintain our sanity. I also, inshallah, would like to talk about the role of the media and also perhaps the role of political leadership. I mean, the question is, how can any other leader go there and tell the Israeli leadership, we are on your side? On what side is it? Killing children? Destroying the homes? On whose side are you? And really, we as Muslims, people of faith, and I'm so glad, pardon my lengthy prologue as it were, I'm so glad that the vast majority of people in the world who have no political aspiration, but the heart is in the right place, who are speaking about it against their own regimes. As long as we've got that, we have hope. But more importantly, we've got Allah on our side. Yusuf, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Yusuf, I did not think I'll be having such a lengthy preamble. Your own initial thoughts about Gaza.
As you said, Uncle Idris, this is unprecedented. It affects each one of us. It is very somber. You watch from, what was it, October 7th, and you look at, the innocent children. You look at these bodies that are being carried from these destroyed buildings. But within all of that, yes, it affects you you think to yourself, I mean, this could happen to anybody. But you also see a people that are remarkable, that give you so much of hope. And you know, the one thing we taught as Muslims is that no matter your circumstance, no matter whatever that circumstance, you never ever lose hope. And that is where Allah always says, I'm always there for you. And you see a people that have this, when you talk of faith, this connection with Allah. I mean, you see a man that says, and he's speaking in Arabic, and he's saying, I've lost everything. All my kids, my grandchildren. And yet, he says, I will never leave this land because I'm connected to Aqsa. And he's still talking, and he's encouraging others and saying, but you put your faith in Allah. Now, for me, I believe that this, yes, it is traumatic, it is catastrophic. What they're going through, only they know what they're going through. But for us watching as the world, it has awoken something in us. It has awoken our humanity. It has awoken the fact that we are so caught up in the material, in our own, when you think about it, our fallible issues that we deal with. We actually realize, I mean, I'm listening to some psychologists talk, Western psychologists, and saying how weak emotionally, mentally the Western world is because of maybe advancements and all these material aspects, that small little things affect us. And then you see what people in Gaza are going through. And you say, but look at these people. And the might of the world, the industrial might of the world, military might, cannot crush these people. Then you realize that when they say Allah's help is with the Gazans, you know, so there's so much to, you know, over this period that you internalize and you try and, you know, demystify and how to internalize for yourself. You know, another thing somebody said, that what the Gazans are teaching us is a world that has lost courage, lost dignity, and lost that strength. And they are showing the world dignity, courage, bravery, strength, despite the greatest catastrophe that they're under.
You know, you said, alhamdulillah, many things, right? For me, a critical thing is this. You know, I remember Sheikh Hamza Yusuf, when you were speaking about the tsunami, people that are cynical, they asked the question, where is God? He says, but Allah is asking you there another question, where are you? Where are you? Where are we? Allah will ask us that you knew about this, but you continued your life, your hedonistic way of life, life of self-enrichment, self-aggrandizement, your concern about your material pursuits. When they came there for help, even humanitarian help, it did nothing. And so this is the point, Yusuf. The point is that it saddens us. You know, in fact, yesterday I did a program for a company, yesterday. And I wasn't myself, you know. Normally in my programs there's a lot of humor, a lot of energy in it. But I could not get myself to do that, you know. But Allah is not asking you to stop your life. Allah is asking you to be proactive. So Yusuf, in our next segment, time goes very quickly when you're having a good time, right? When you're chatting. In the next segment, I want to focus a lot about the media. how do we deal with the media? What should our response be? What are the deleterious or negative effects of looking at a particular media when they've got those graphic pictures, the blood of those kids? You know, what should we do? So inshallah, my beloved brothers and sisters, we will be back inshallah. And I don't want to depress you. We want to give you hope, and always Inspirate Life is about finding solutions. I'll be back immediately after this break. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. In the first segment, we were speaking generally about what's happening in Gaza and the impact on the children, impact on those wonderful brothers and sisters that are staying there. You know, Yusuf, one of the things that I've heard someone say, and it's so powerful, and he said, whoever controls the media controls your mind. Right? I remember I tried the American accent. Whoever controls the media controls your mind, my brothers and sisters. And it's a very, very powerful thing, you see. Like when you look at the media, if you look at Al Jazeera and you look at the other cable networks, they are two different narratives, completely. And people that adopt a pro-Palestinian stance, they are interrogated, right? Now, in terms of the media, right, I mean, what kind of guidance can you give people? Should one be looking at it all the time, being bludgeoned by it? Surely it will impact on your psyche and on your disposition.
That's a very good question. Look, I take a view that I don't think you can mute yourself from it. I think that would be foolhardy. It's a reality. What is happening? It's important to also become discerning. And that's important. There's also a lot of false narratives that go around from both sides. There's a lot of old videos that float around that are being used to push a certain narrative. So it's important to educate yourself with this. It's a complex issue as well. I mean, when you hear the CNN that put out, this is a leading international news network that put out false information about babies being maimed by Hamas, which was, and then they day after then apologized that this was this wasn't true. So if they do it, you know, imagine other people that are doing it. So you need to be very, very discerning about information. That's one. Educate yourself about the issue. Understand when also listen. There's what media do is they push out the narrative and they'll repeat terms. There was this where they used when it came to Israelis that were affected, then they were victims. When Palestinians are affected, then it's just a neutral word that they'll use. This constant usage of Hamas as a terrorist organization. So you have to then be careful. So they actually almost put you in a state where you become apologetic. You know, you then say, no, I'm only for the Palestinian people, but you won't say, I'm for Hamas, because that's a pariah. And if you use that, then you're seen as a pariah. So they use tools and techniques to control our minds. And we have to be very, very, very careful. The media is extremely powerful to push a narrative. I mean, this platform is a platform for us to provide an alternate voice. And it's important. We have social media. I mean, I for example, was putting videos on so, and I think people, I encourage people also, I think on one of our groups as well, I think it's A.B. Dawji that talks very strongly about going out on the radio stations, educating people, right? Because there's a false narrative, and sometimes it's not even consciously that people are pushing out the false narrative. People don't know. They only see it from one-sided view, maybe a pro-Israeli view. So you need to go out and give a different view. Right? I mean, they're saying, but Hamas is using the Palestinians in Gaza as human shields. But then why do they attack the Palestinians in the West Bank? There's no Hamas there, right? So these are the things that you need to educate yourself on. Understand also, back-end things that are happening. Why is this war happening? What is the bigger plan? Right? I mean, you're hearing a Israeli Knesset member from the defense force talking about nuking Palestinians. So how can they on one side say about Hamas using Palestinians, Gazans, as human shields when the intention openly is to nuke the whole of Gaza? When the guy says, why are they attacking the north? I think it was on one of Al Jazeera asking the question. He says, no, but everyone can move into the Sinai. So you understand, this is the plan, is to move everyone out of Gaza and to take it over and call it for what it is. I mean, at one stage we had to be apologetic for using the word genocide. This is a genocide that's happening in front of our eyes with the world leaders watching and doing nothing, sadly. And including our Arab leaders. And there's very few, and we have to really admire our government, and especially our Minister of International Relations, who's doing a sterling job in terms of creating the awareness. There's a few others. I mean, of all the countries in the world, there's like, I think, 7 or 8 that are now pulling their diplomats out of Israel. We can do so much more. So it's about educating yourself. I don't think, running away from the news. I don't think that's going to help. But of course, also, as much as it is emotional, I think you also need to realize that you need to combat that emotions by. I mean, there was warfare from the times of the Prophet ﷺ. The Prophet wasn't emotional about it. There was warfare, right? There was heartache. He went through a lot, but what did he do? Kept hope, kept strong, because that's iman. That's how a mu'min must operate. He must be strong. He must be rational, right? Use different strategies. This is one. Media is a powerful tool. I mean, we can't be on the ground there. What do the Palestinians say to you? I don't even need your money. They say, I just need you to care for me.
You know what? I also want to stop you there for a moment. You see, one of the critical aspects is this, that we must train our kids, even at home, not to be passive receptacles of the media, must be critical consumers, but also producers. Now, we've got to understand, ask the question, who's owning the media? What is the ideology? Robert Fisk, he was an incredible journalist. And one of the articles he wrote, because journalists probably stay in the same hotel, he'll meet people from other networks. He said on the dining room table, they'll concur that what is happening is abhorrent. The heart goes out. But when they're in front of the camera, they push another agenda. I mean, where is the conscience, number one, right? So we need to teach our children how to deal with this. I'll give you an example, something I did at school some years ago. I gave my pupils an exercise. I said, this year is a report from the guidance counselor about pupil X. The other is from his teacher, the other from his headmaster, and the other from his mother. I said, I want you to read all and write your own. It was an incredible exercise. The subjectivity of the mother, the prejudice and bias, So they realize that, and it's something we need our people to understand. Because otherwise, the media will shape the minds and attitudes, And therefore, you find today, there are many people who are emotionally and spiritually detached from what is going on, right? But the other critical thing is this, for me, which is also fundamental, that, A.B. Dawji, Allah bless him, he really, is actively involved, so many radio stations, doing his bit, gives a critical analysis. He says, please, you must respond. You got to respond and give the counter narrative. Share this history of what has happened in Palestine, what is going to happen, what continues to happen. So the issue of media is important, but the same token, in terms of the psychological impact, I think we need to discuss, I have some ideas in terms of how we can maintain our sanity, how we can remain hopeful, inshallah, how we can be even more productive in this debilitating times. I think that is also important, because what I found, which I might have mentioned in my introduction, is the fact that people around the dining room table, you visit a friend, like the other night I went to see a friend of mine, say, Idris, man, you're looking down, because I was so consumed by it, so consumed
So
by
it's another very important aspect, and I think this is where our emotions can get the better of us. When we see that, a lot of, it musters up a lot of deep emotions in us. Now, it can muster up a lot of vengefulness, hatred, and it's important, and this is, again, rules that have been set by our beloved Prophet ﷺ. He never ever fell into that trap. Yes, be firm, call out
I want to
injustice.
stop you there. It's such a vital point, because I was also going to speak about the different steps that take place. The first response, your second, third, fourth, and what are things that you got to guard yourself. We'll be back, inshallah, after this break. I hope you are enjoying this discussion. It's a conversation. It's not like we're presenting deep, profound insights, but more importantly, we are trying to give a perspective that will help you get up every morning with renewed hope, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Yes, we are speaking about the psychological impact of the war in Gaza. You were speaking earlier on, and from my knowledge, these are some steps that take place, and I want people to understand that. When we see the first graphic picture, we're emotional. It is cathartic. It really, really, you cry, right? You see it again and again. There comes to a point you become numb now. You're being bludgeoned by it. It's becoming such a pervasive reality. Then, Allah forbid, you become insensitive. You become brutalized. As you point that you raise, you become vengeful. There's anger in conversations, getting upset, agitated. It affects your relationship with your own family. So one has to be very, very guarded. We need to look at how we can channel that energy. And an important thing that I would recommend to everyone, watch it for a few minutes a day. Maybe the last thing, not the last thing before you go to bed, because it's going to be embedded, is to watch it. But turn to the Quran.
Yes.
Lift up your hands. Cry to Allah. Remember this, my friends. As Muslims, we are always optimistic.
Yes.
Always optimistic, because we know Allah's plan will prevail. And the thing here is, we also understand the world is not about those that are physically strong. No. The world is about those that are morally strong. It's about them, goodness in people. So I think it's important, and about the different stages, how we deal with it. And it's important for us to continue living our life. You can't sit plonk in front of the TV the whole day, getting forwarded messages, looking at all time, looking at those pictures, and you'll be affected. And make dua that you continue to be affected, because Allah has given you mercy and compassion.
Yeah, I think, look, what's very important, firstly, and this has come out very strongly, and it's a key tenet of our religion, that social justice is a key aspect. I mean, the Prophet ﷺ fought that throughout his time, was on the side of the downtrodden, was always on the side of those that were oppressed, always fought against the oppressors, even his own tribe, his own people, his own family, that were unjust. Right? Now, what you're seeing today is, and you spoke about that, world leaders that are so caught up in wealth, in economic aspects, that have lost that morality. So it's a fight here between morality versus those that are on the side of justice. Right? Truth versus falsehood. And you have to make that choice. And it is difficult. We live in a world that has blurred that. You're so caught up. You could be in an organization where you're so caught up in the material world with, I don't know, maybe dealing with even these international businesses, etc. You're so caught up in your material world that you don't see then the difference. You actually start justifying, all right, falsehood. And it's become like that. If you look at the world we live today, that we live in today, everything goes. What you've seen with this aspect that's happening is that there are those that are on the side of haq, and there's those on the side of falsehood. Now, it's a distinct line, and you have to be able to make that choice. Yes, we will all err, we do wrong, but always know that you're doing is wrong. Call it out for what it is. Don't justify stuff, right? I mean, there are those that are in organizations that are supporting the Israelis. Yes, they're there. You might have been there, but call it out for what it is. You've seen some politicians that have done that, that have risked their careers because of that, right? And you've seen, so you have to be standing up. I mean, I think those that don't stand up are the ones that are the problem, right? So would it put you in a vulnerable state? Yes. But this is where we have to start mastering. That's our own jihad. That's the jihad that we can be doing, is just having that courage to stand up for what is wrong. Yes, we're all in what I term this vortex, this world that is so illusionary, that captures you, and then everything goes, and you get caught up in this whole facade. But you need to start moving away from it and watching it with a critical eye. And I think what it's bringing our old principles, that is in the Quran, that is in our hadith, that where there's falsehood, and we're in the world where it's very, very difficult to decipher. But I think what this has done is it's really made you choose. It's taken off the veneers, all the cloaks, the facade is off. You now have to make a choice. You're either on the side of truth or you're on the side of falsehood. As difficult as it is.
I think what is critical, right, that we have this notion, and it's easy to be an ivory tower, be a spectator, and be cynical, and sometimes facetious, and say, blame everyone else, have a condescending attitude, be critical of others, but not self-critical. The question is, what are you doing? And that's important. What are you doing? I mean, there are many things we can do. You may have people of other faiths. I mean, in fact, even Christians in Gaza are also affected by it. So you have friends. And we must not generalize. Yes, we can target governments who adopt a particular foreign policy for whatever reason, but generally the people are good people. And we saw it in those marches throughout the world.
I mean, in the history of America,
Yeah.
in the capital,
Yeah.
Washington, D.C., just last week, 400,000 people from all different faiths, different creeds, races, all get together. It's humanity that's standing up on the side of truth, because this is now humanity versus falsehood. And that's what it's about. And I think that's something that's very important, is that we tend to then isolate a particular race, because it happens to be that Jewish Zionists are perpetrating the injustices. But there are so many Jewish people that are on the side of truth, that are on the side of justice. And we've seen that the world over. So it is, again, very, very important to understand what the narrative is. This is not a fight against Jewish people. This is a fight against injustice. And injustice can be your own fellow Muslim.
Correct.
That is on the side of injustice.
Correct.
And that's what we see.
Yeah. You know, the important thing is this whole thing has confronted us about who we are. What are we doing? Where is our moral compass? What is our connection with Allah? What is our connection with fellow humanity? Are you an ambassador for the deen of Islam? Are people drawn towards Islam when they see you, or they scoff at Islam because of you? So these are important things. Now, of course, we are human beings. We would cry. We get emotional. It is cathartic, purgatorial, and all of those things. But an important aspect for us, inshallah, is that we must not give up hope, restore our faith, reconnect with Allah, cry to Allah. Because if there was no year after, there's another matter. Lucky we are people of faith. Otherwise, we'll go mad, man. We'll go crazy. You know what I mean? We'll go mad. There'll be madness. But alhamdulillah.
It's actually one of the reasons why you have such a lot of hope, as all this military complex will never defeat the Palestinian people, is because of the difference that their life is for Allah and the year after. They've removed themselves because they're not into the world. I mean, you're in a concentration camp. What is your aspirations? So you've only connected to Allah. And that is why you will never able to crush those people.
And in fact, these are all shaheed. They are martyrs.
They are martyrs.
They are smiling. They're in Jannah.
When you hear the stories of guys walking and they're saying they're smelling the smell of musk. This is what is happening in front of is a miracle of what we used to hear of the time of the Sahaba.
Yeah.
This is what's happening.
You know, you're talking about that, inshallah, when we come back after the break, I want to share a story of a 12-year-old girl, the letter she wrote, in Gaza. Right, we'll be back immediately after this break. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This is a final segment. The purpose of these programs is to look at the issues that are impacting on the ummah, is to talk about it, not to sweep anything under the carpet. But as believers, we must confront the reality, and importantly, to say, what changes do I need to effect in my lifestyle? What do I need to do differently? It is not meant to titillate you or, look back and look at others, but we want you to look at yourself as we are doing. So we're talking about the psychological impact of the war in Gaza. So Yusuf, I was telling you, I just read this letter from a 12-year-old girl. I just give you the synopsis. She says, I'm a 12-year-old girl, and she says that when I die, when I get martyred, she used the word martyred, everything I own, you must use it, put a water well, and give water to the thirsty people. I mean, look at it. Look at the generosity at that time. Look at the generosity. It reminds me of a story that I've shared. There is a father who had in Jenin, I think it was, his 12-year-old son next to him. And he said, from every gunshot that my son hears, he'll tell you the name of that gun. Just as how in the West, where people at the dark of the night, when they see the gleam of the light, they'll tell you whether that car is a Mercedes or an Audi or a BMW.
Look at the condition.
Look at the reality. Look at that reality. So I think it's an opportune time for our families to be united, have unity of purpose, re-look and appraise our value system. You know, how happy I was when my beloved wife said to me that I got a project I want to do. I want to raise $1 million for the Gazans. I said, no, inshallah, Allah will make that happen. How nice if you say, you know what, let's see how we can forego some of our luxuries.
There's so much we can do.
So much we can do. And I think, you know, I hope, inshallah, that at the end of the program, people would renew the optimism, you know, would renew the self-motivation, will go out and, you know, go back to the house of Allah in our numbers and lift up our hands, united in our purpose. The other thing that, Yusuf, I want to just chat to you about, like in South Africa, we are in this country, and the stance of ANC, AFF is very, very gratifying. That we can speak with impunity about what's going on there. In other countries, in UK, for example, a pro-Palestine march is regarded as a hate march.
There was talks of even banning the Palestinian flag.
Can you believe that? You know, people playing football are not allowed to express their feelings about injustice. So what is happening? Why this is happening? So in terms of, you know, the reality on the ground, so we have the ANC, AFF and others that are speaking out.
I think, look, South Africa, we're very fortunate. I think we really, what has happened here is to show the struggles of our past in terms of fighting against apartheid. There are a lot of similarities between South Africa. And you find that especially the black majority who have been under oppression as non-white people, it resonate with the plight of the Palestinians. That's why you've seen the EFF come out so strongly. That's why you've seen the ANC coming out so strongly. You've seen these people that have come from the liberation movements that are coming out because it resonates what they're going through. In actual fact, we actually have to admit that what they're going through is 10 times worse than what we went through. We were not bombed like this. Yes, we were oppressed. We were in an apartheid state, but we were not bombed like the way these guys are being bombed, you know, the Palestinian people. So, yet, we have a country that has, because of the sacrifices of so many, we have this constitution that talks of humanity, you know, and putting humanity first. And we can lead the world in terms of that. That's what's happening through our Minister of International Relations, now calling for the president of Israel, Netanyahu, to be tried at the International Criminal Court. And South Africa pushing that. We are fortunate to be able to speak out the way we do. We have a parliament that robustly, yesterday, debates around this aspect. You also need to understand that there's also forces, opposing forces, that are being backed by the Zionists to actually try and thwart this whole freedoms that we have. And we need to be very careful going into an election next year, that our freedoms, you know, putting that cross, talking about our own issues. Yes, there's a lot of corruption and all of that, which we understand has been perpetrated by the current government. But if we lose these freedoms, we would end up like these other countries where a flag may not be allowed to, Palestinian flag may not be allowed to be waved, and you don't have those freedoms of expressions. So we have to be very careful, and we have to be very fortunate also and appreciative of the fact that we have a government that's taking such a powerful stance and leading the way, because we can. And we can also play a meaningful role in creating peace if that is what they want. But I sometimes wonder that you can only bring peace when two parties want peace. You're starting to see again the deceptive aspects, the manipulation by, unfortunately, the Israelis in support of, or with their allies, this being the US and the UK and all the allies, because I don't really believe they actually want peace. They don't even want the Palestinians to actually live, in that land. They actually want them to be exterminated. And sadly, that is the reality that we live in.
In fact, I wonder, how much of truth is when they have the press conferences. It is for public consumption.
I mean, there was the US Secretary of Defense, and they showed a clip that just recently at the at a news conference with Russia and Ukraine, and they talk about the Russians being killed, and he's like, oh, but that is no, when you talk about the Ukrainians being killed, and he literally breaks down. He's tearing, and he says, but these are innocent people that are being affected by the Russians, by this oppressive force, and he's crying. And then they show him, they ask him the question about the Palestinians, and he says, but this is just part of war. Now, what is it? Because these are brown people? This because they are Muslim? Is that why you don't? I mean, we're talking about humanity here. If you hold a human life so importantly, why do you then put the Palestinians as lesser? And that's what we must call out, because that's what it's about. It's come out clearly. I think what has happened for me is that, I mean, I know it's difficult to see positives in such quagmire, but we taught this as Muslims. Always see a positive. Allah always has a grandiose plan. And for me, what it has done, really I have to say this, is that it's really taken off the masks. And you can't hide anymore, right? When you are a bigot now. Because if you choose that side, you are a bigot, you are a racist. You see Palestinian life, because they brown and because they Muslim, as lesser. And call it for what it is.
Yusuf, Jazakumullah, really, for your insights, having this conversation. Brothers and sisters, I had no idea I'll be speaking to Yusuf.
Yes.
Alhamdulillah, Allah's mercy. So my brothers and sisters, I want to reinforce some of the things that we have been saying. Your faith in Allah must be stronger. The Sahaba, when they were tested, the faith did not diminish. They never said, why me, Allah? You got to be strong. And remember, even if you're one person articulating the truth, you are with Allah, you're the majority you need. They say when it is dark, it requires one candle to illuminate the darkness. The second thing is this: do not allow yourself to be a passive individual watching television, being bludgeoned by those gory pictures of our children, our mothers, brothers, sisters being slaughtered by the Israeli regime. The third thing is this: reconnect with Allah and His beloved Rasul. The fourth thing is this: do introspection. The fifth thing, do not make generalizations. There are good people across the board. There are three types of individuals. You have the politician who is only concerned about his own political aspirations. He often lacks integrity. Then there is that individual who sadly is duped by the media, who needs a counter-narrative. And there is a third individual who sadly is malicious, his heart is in the wrong place, only Allah can give him hidayah. So my friends, do connect with us. It's always a joy, and I'm so glad that I'm sharing this with you. I feel a sense of liberation having done that. May Allah be with you, protect you, and inshallah, don't forget, Islam will prevail. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.